Hey guys, AGArtsCo here. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to create this professional 3D intro in HitFilm 2 Ultimate. This is going to be my first voice tutorial, so please leave feedback. Perhaps I'm going too fast or too slow. That's what she said. Anyways, let's begin. So, under project settings, you can change this to whatever you want. For this tutorial, I'm going to be going 1280 by 720 with a frame rate of 25. However, you can do 1080p or whatever you feel like. So we're going to go to the Import tab, and we're going to choose to import 3D model. The first thing you're going to want to do is download my 3D text OBJ pack. It'll be in the description. I gave it away as in my 100 subscriber video. So import each of the letters that you'll need for your name. So when you bring it in, you'll see that there's two groups to the text. There's a front and there's a back. If you switch under the Material tab, you can change the settings. So if I want to change the diffuse color or the color of the text, I can change it to whatever I want. For example, red. And you'll see updates right there. So you can completely customize these texts. I'm going to be keeping mine as default. And if you change some other effects, you can get things such as chrome text and whatnot, so I recommend checking that out. And then just import all of the different text that you need. Now we're going to create a new composite shot. I'm going to title mine Intro, and I'm going to make it 10 seconds long. So now we're going to want to drag all of our 3D OBJs into the composite shot, and if it asks you if you want a 3D camera, click yes. So it looks a bit funky right now, but if you switch to your two views, and in the top view panel, if you bring the camera back, you can start to see things better. So now what you'll want to do is space out your text. I'm just going to do mine roughly because this is just a tutorial, but I recommend trying to equally space them out. And then after you have all of that, just center it and maybe tweak the camera. That'll be fine for me. So now what I'm going to do is create a new light. I'm going to drag this up and out. And you may want to tweak this to get some dynamics in your lighting, but I like this right here. It has some nice shadows. Next, what you're going to want to do is create a new plane. I'm going to go with a light gray. Drag that to the bottom of your timeline. And then we're going to place a vignette on it. I'll be using a 720p vignette. You can adjust this if you like, but I'm going to keep it the way it is. Next, what you're going to want to do is highlight all of your text and move to around the 1.5 second mark in your timeline. Under the World Transform properties, set a keyframe for the position, X, Y, and Z rotation. Now you'll have to repeat this process for each text. Once again, keyframe, the X, Y, and Z positioning, rotation, and the position. So now select all your text, switch to 2 views again, and make sure that you're at the beginning of your timeline. Now what you're going to want to do is drag the text behind the camera, just a little behind the camera, and you'll see that it makes automatic keyframe for the positioning. And now if we play through the animation, we'll see the text fly in. So that's pretty cool. If we switch to our perspective view, our perspective view, we'll see our text, and it doesn't have the lighting that it does at the end of the animation, so we're also going to have to keyframe the light once again at the beginning of your animation and at the 1.5 second mark. And at the 1.5 second mark, you'll want to have your light at a similar place. So in this case, I had it up and a little bit in front. Set your keyframes and switch to your active camera and play through the animation, and you'll see that the lighting stays relatively consistent throughout the animation. You may want to do a bit of tweaking. Switch back to your perspective view, and now what you're going to want to do, once again making sure that you're at the very beginning of your timeline, you're going to select each of the texts and you're going to set rotations on the X, Y, and Z. Now if you play through the animation and making sure that you have those keyframes, you'll see that the text moves. You can try different values, such as 360, but in lots of cases it just works best if you have random values. So repeat this process for each of your texts, and I'll be right back. So after you're done keyframing each of your text, you should come up with something like this. Like I said, each of the X, Y, and Z rotations are completely random, and it creates a pretty cool result. So what we're going to do now is create a new layer, and we're going to create a new grade. On this grade, we're going to place a shake effect. You'll notice right now that the shake effect is affecting the whole timeline. So we're going to set a keyframe from a little bit before the text hits or finishes rotating, and then we're going to set another keyframe where we want the shake to completely stop, or at least slow down. So I'm going to have a shake amount of 5. Around the point where you think the text would be hitting a wall or something, we want to completely crank up the shake amount, so I'm going to use 300. So if we play through this animation, we have the text coming in, and then when it hits the wall, it completely shakes like an impact, and then it starts to slow down. So we have that nice fade transition going on there. And I may increase that end shake amount to 10. Now we're going to add on some lens dirt onto this grade. You can fool around with the settings. I'm just going to increase the threshold and decrease the intensity a little. I'm just gonna keep it the way it is. You guys can definitely fool around with this and get some really cool effects. So this is what we got. and the lens dir adds a lot of dynamics. Makes it look way better. Next we're gonna add on light flare. Drag that onto the grade, and make sure that the light flare is at the top, so that the shake will affect the light flare. Otherwise, it'll look silly. And just choose a light flare that you like. I mean, there's so many choices. I'm gonna go with this. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the diffraction chromatic lens flare, and drag it to the left side of the scene. Right now I'm just gonna turn off the shake so we can see the flare a little bit better, and just like what we did with the shake, we're gonna keyframe the scale and intensity. So before you do that, you can adjust the colors. Mine is going pretty good right now. Global, hotspot, and raise. Those are some cool things that you can change. So yeah, now I'm just gonna start keyframing. And I'm gonna keyframe it to start at the time when the shake starts. So I'm going to keyframe the intensity from to go up really high as it hits, or actually, and then as the shake starts to fade out, we're going to have the light flare fade out, or at least dim a little. So if you set those keyframes at the same time as the shake, you can get something like this. And I may want to decrease the intensity down here as well. 1.15 was what it was on default, so I'll just keep it like that. And I think I may also keyframe other things. It's totally up to you. Adjusting each of these will get you a different effect, so like I said multiple times, just play around with it. I'm just going to be keyframing the length of the rays, once again at the same places as the shake. And at the start, I'm just going to have the intensity to be 0. So there's no light flare, and then at the time that the shake starts, the light flare pops in. So it really gives that kind of impact feel to the intro. So now at around the 7-second mark, I'm going to keyframe the intensity again. So over the course of 1 second, I'm going to have the intensity go from 2 to 5. And I'm going to keyframe the scale as well. Over the 1 second period, I want the scale to go from whatever it was to 2000, maybe 2500, as long as it engulfs pretty much most of the screen. And those the lens dir is making it look really cool as well. So far we have a pretty cool animation, but we're just going to add on to it a little bit more, spice it up. We're going to add on another lens flare, and once again drag it above the shake. I'm going to change this one to be Golden Artifact. That's a really cool one. And if you just drag this one somewhere across the screen, it's kind of like adding another lens dirt effect. So yeah, you can adjust this light flare as well. I'm just gonna keep it the way it is. So what I'm gonna do now is add a channel URL to the bottom. So drag your text tool over the area where you want the text to be and start typing. So I'm gonna do www.youtube.com/user/name. So highlight your text and center it and change the font. I believe the font that I used for the 3D text was called Cafe Nero. Yeah, Cafe Nero MS4. So I'm going to change the font to that, and I'm just going to center it. I'm just going to highlight it, and I'm going to change the color, maybe a gray, and I'm going to add a stroke of 3 pixels, and I'm going to change that color to white. There it's similar to the 3D text. I'm just going to change the inner color to black and the outer color to light gray. So there it's a bit more similar to the 3D text, and I'm just going to move it down a little bit. I may change the stroke to 2 pixels. And I'm going to stick it under the grade so that the lens dirt and the shake will affect it. So you'll see it kind of blends in with everything now. So definitely make sure that your text is under the grade. Now what I'm going to do is create a mask. And if you've watched one of my other tutorials, this is the same technique. So what I'm going to do is draw the mask around the text and then increase the feather strength to around 30 pixels. And what I'm going to do is animate the path. So at the 2 second mark and the 3 second mark, I'm going to set a keyframe. And at the 2 second mark, I'm going to move the mask off to the left of the scene. So if you play through that animation, you'll see the mask slide from one side to the other, and it reveals the text. So that's a pretty cool effect. What I'm going to do now is add another light flare, and I'm going to place this onto another new grade. And I'm going to title this grade light flare mask. Once again, I'm going to drag that under the grade with the shake, and I'm going to place this one to the left of the URL text. And I'm going to change this to flashlight white, and just like the mask, I'm going to keyframe the hotspot position at the 2 second mark and the 3 second mark. And at the 2 second mark, I want it to be at the left, and at the 3 second mark, I want it to be at the right. I'm also going to keyframe the intensity of the flare. I'm going to have it fade in, and I'm going to have it fade out. So over the course of about half a second, I'm going to have the light flare go from its normal brightness or intensity to 0, and I'm going to have it fade in by a few frames. So we'll have 0, to 1 down to 0. So we have this nice fade in, fade out effect. And it reveals the text, which is really cool. So if we play through our animation, we got a lot of cool stuff going on. So we have the text flying, we have the light flares, we have the text. And one thing I don't like is just how soon I had the text come in. So I'm gonna have the URL come in around a second later. So I'm just gonna slide it down. And I think that's good. So we'll go back into the editor and drag the intro composite shot in. And what we're gonna do is go to the point where the light flare is at its highest intensity. And then we're gonna add a fade to black effect. Or fade to color, sorry. And we're gonna add that to the beginning of the intro and the end of the intro. So we have this nice fade in, nice animation, and then a nice fade out. I may shorten the fade to color at the back. Yeah, that looks good. So now I'm just going to export it. I usually export it as an MP4, and I'm going to keep my video properties the way that they are. And hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Please leave suggestions in the comments below. Some feedback would be welcome. Please like, rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.